And good afternoon, and welcome to our Augmented Reality in the Classroom and Beyond workshop. You have got myself, Phil Sparrow, an Education Development Manager here at KRCS, with you live on the microphone. And we've got Chris Smith, our Apple Professional Learning Specialist, who is going to be in the chat with us today. And also, he'll be doing some demonstrations for us today in a real life classroom. So get ready for those. So, without further ado, we are going to just do a few bits of housekeeping before we go anywhere else. So, don't be shy to ask questions or speak up. Use the chat window, so if any of you are in chat already, feel free to type in there to ask a question. But if you do not have a YouTube account, that doesn't matter. There's an email address on the screen, edsales@krcs.co.uk. So you can email us there and ask any questions about anything you've seen today. Or if you want to ask about whether your iPad can use this software, how can you get an iPad that can use this software? What about Mac? What about anything to do with education and Apple products in the classroom? What about training? What about the technical stuff? You can drop us an email there, and I'll check that email inbox a little bit later and try and check throughout the presentation. If we do present any discussion points, it'd be great if you could say anything, even if it's just you saying, wow, I didn't know that, or we did this yesterday and actually it had a great impact. Anything at all is a contribution, so anything is appreciated if you can. But let's get things started. So like I say, we'll try and do it. It's a half an hour to a 40-minute session. Bit of an agenda, and I won't keep on this one too long. We're going to do some introductions so you know who I am and you know who Chris Smith is and why we are the people that can talk to you today. What is AR, or what is augmented reality? And then we're going to be looking at some apps, AR Maker, Jigspace, BBC Civilizations, TinkerCAD and Reality Composer, and then a brief section at the end for some Q&A. So, who are we? This is the bit we're going to do a whistle stop through. Won't keep you too long because you're not here for us, you're here for the content. So, we've got myself, Phil Sparrow, the top 2 bullet points. I am a qualified class teacher. I've been a one-to-one teaching assistant as well, HLTA with SEN experience, and I've worked with all the needs you can see there in all of my roles, and I'm qualified to work in children's mental health, so I have quite a broad understanding of the primary setting as well as some adult settings. Then we've got Chris Smith in the chat, who is our very, very experienced and qualified Apple Professional Learning Specialist, advisory teacher, primary school teacher, has also ran a regional training centre in the UK. He's worked with Apple for a very long time, and he's an Apple Distinguished Educator, as you can see. KRCS, the company that is talking to you today, we are one of Apple's authorized education specialists. We repair things as well, the Apple way. We're a premium reseller, and we also help do some technical stuff as well, which you can see with the JAMF managed service partner stuff. But if you want to come back and look at any of these lovely acronyms or facts about us, you can come back at any time afterwards to see. But without further ado, we're going to move on to the main event. Exactly, we're going to get started. So augmented reality, and this is the only bit for us today, the only bit of reading we're going to do today. Augmented reality is an enhanced version of our real physical world that is achieved through the use of digital, visual elements, sound, or other sensory stimuli delivered via technology. Basically, this is making our real world even better by putting stuff in it that isn't already there. But this is by the use of technology. We're not just going to go to IKEA and put up a Kallax bookshelf. That's not augmenting our reality. We are augmenting it with technology by using iPad or Mac or iPhone to put things quite fantastical in nature or achieve things that we couldn't do without the use of technology, putting it into our own reality. Now, to show you this in action and to show you the apps we spoke about today, Chris Smith actually went into a school last week, early this week, and has taken and has made some examples for us to explore, showing off these apps and a nice progression from the starting elements of augmented reality towards some more complex ideas that can range from just a brief 10-15 minute activity with iPad, as well as something that can go out to a whole lesson or maybe a unit of work with some science related things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what Chris did, and if Chris has got any commentary, he will be typing in the chat for us as we go. But we're going to have a look. So going over, we can see Chris's iPad screen. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Chris, and we're going to see what Chris got up to and you're going to see some actual augmented reality on iPad. If at any time you want to ask a question about what you can see, or you want to ask a question about how things are achieved, use the chat, use the emails, and we'll be both here to help you. But without further ado, let's talk to Chris.
That we're going to look at today is called AR Maker. This little icon here with Maker spelled with an R at the end. Tap onto that. When you start it shows you a range of templates you can use, and we're going to look at the three little pigs because I think this would fit in really nice with literacy, especially in Key Stage 1. So I'm going to tap onto that. I'm going to start my camera, and you notice it automatically tries to find the ground. Now I could use the whole big space, which was in a school hall, that would be good, or maybe we could scan and see if it will find a smaller area. So now it's found the top of this work surface, so it could be the top of the table to make this scene on the children's table itself. And you see the little line around the edge, and if I go outside of the line, my characters can't be there. So I'm going to look at this area, and you see down the side I've got some objects. I'm going to put a tree into there. I can make the tree bigger by pinching out my fingers, and then I can place it wherever I'd like. So I'm going to place the tree there, and now you'll see I can walk around and look at it from different sides. The next thing I'm going to do, scroll down, I'm going to put the wolf in there. Now, the wolf's a bit big, so let's make him a bit smaller. And I'm going to hide him behind the tree somewhere. So this might be really good for prepositions, in front, behind. I'm going to choose one of the pigs, make him a little bit bigger, and place him near the front. And if you go further down, the assets on the left-hand side, you can choose the house that he has. Let's make it like a bit bigger so you can fit in. And I place that there. Once I've placed my objects into there, I hide that with the arrow on the left. And now I can explore the world that I've created. So move around, I can go behind the tree, and I can find the wolf. I can come back to the beginning, and I can find the pig. Now, if you notice on the right-hand side of this, there's a camera and a video camera. So I won't do it now because it's difficult to do this by screen recording, tap onto the camera and video the scene as I walk through it. And I could be retelling the story. So one day the pig had made his house out of sticks, but little did he know, not too far away behind the tree, the wolf was waiting to come and blow it down. So that sort of thing would be a great way of getting children started with the story, give them ideas, make them think about where things are in relation to other things. And this will all save to your camera roll as a video. If I go back to the add sign, you'll see you can put all the three little pig pictures in here. But also you can add your own emojis, you can add your own pictures. So you can do a range of things in there, not just use the ready-made ones. But I would suggest the ready-made ones be a great start to get you using AR for the first time. This is a really simple AR application where you build the scene in the actual location. And as I say, it's just as easy as tapping on the character, pinching them to make them size you want, and then place them in the scene. Tap on the arrow on the left, it hides everything out of the way, and you can then retell your story or create your own story. So that's a quick run through what AR Maker will do for you. It's free, download it, give it a go. So the next app we're going to look at is called Jigspace. Now Jigspace, another free app, when it loads up, it shows you a range of different things that you can explore. These are made by the Jigspace people. So there's a whole range of different topics you can look at, and they're broken down to history and science and geography. So there's a range of stuff there. Not all of them will be useful to you, but there's enough there to definitely have a look at it. If you go to the community area at the top, you can download other people's Jigspaces, and you can, if you wish, create your own. But I'm just going to show you how it works using the Explore option, because I think for busy teachers, finding something ready-made would be good. So the one I'm going to look at is bees and pollination at the top left. And when I tap onto that, it asks me if I want to view it in AR. So I tap on view it in AR and it downloads. Now it's asking me to place my scene where I want. Now the last one I put onto a tabletop. So this time I'm going to pinch this out, see if we'll make it a bit bigger. I'm going to place it just in front of me. So I'll tap there and it puts a scene. And you can see there's a bee at the top. And if I would stand up, I can move around and I can look at things in as much or as little detail as I wish. So that's how it starts. And you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, it's got some information about what we're seeing. On the right hand side of the screen, there's some arrows. I tap onto the arrow and it moves us through to different pieces of information. Now, if I touch the screen where the bee is and I swirl or swipe across, I can move this around and again explore in really great detail to see what a bee would look like. And it does give me the information at the bottom. So I tap it again and it highlights the eyes, tells me they're compound eyes, which all insects have. So there's a lot of technical information, but you're exploring it in a slightly different way. I think what we're trying to do is inspire children, get their imaginations working. So this one, I'm going to swipe this around. You can see there's 3 levels in a hive, it's telling me. So I'll tap onto this. So the female bees are the main workers. And if we tap again, you have drone bees. They don't really do too much, but again, you can read the information for yourself and find out. And then we go to the top, which is the queen bee. And just for information, the queen bee doesn't really wear a crown, but I think that's useful for the children to be able to realise there's a queen bee. And it just works its way through, and it talks about pollination, and it'll bring in the technical language we need to teach our pupils, but they can explore it at their own pace. And you'll see the bee goes to the flower and collects the pollen, goes to another plant and transfers the pollen to that. So this leads us slowly through the whole thing, the whole process that they go through. If you notice at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, I've got a camera again, so I could record this as a video. And this is the end of my topic where I've learned all this information. Maybe a video to explain to my teacher exactly what the process is would be a different way of putting my thoughts down and showing my knowledge and understanding. So I won't carry on with this. You get the idea of how it works. If I go back on the back arrow, I can just mention there's a few here, like the coral reef might be a good one. One of my favourite ones is, I can't find down the bottom somewhere, we've got the lunar lander, and there's a trebuchet. Yeah, I like the anatomy of a trebuchet because you can see things working in real life. So you can make your own. I've just showed you the ones that are built in with it, but I think they'd be a great starting point for you to explore science or history or geography using AR just to supplement the usual way that you teach things already. Okay, here's the next app we're going to look at, and this is called Civilizations AR. It's an app made by the BBC, and it was to go hand in hand with their TV series called Civilizations. When you tap onto it, you do get some instructions normally to explain what to do, but basically it comes up.
Try touch the screen until the circle is full, then let go to position the globe.
So move this around. I'm going to do this on the whole floor of the classroom now, and I hold my finger onto the screen and a globe appears.
Welcome to the world of civilizations. Explore the globe to unearth history's ancient treasures.
Okay, so we could look at a Corinthian helmet. I'm going to just go through the Rosetta Stone. There's a range of things in here, and I'm just tapping through. I could spin the globe and find them, but the one that I'm looking for that I think would be possibly the most useful to you, especially in Key Stage 2, I'd imagine, mummy in Egyptian coffin. Now it's come onto the globe. I tap onto the image, and it then places the sarcophagus in my classroom. If I swipe on the screen, I can move this around. This artifact has been
scaled up. Pinch the artifact to scale it down to its original size.
So if I pinch in, tap on see real size, we can move up and down to get the size that it should be. So I'm going to put this size in the screen. That looks good. So for pupils now, they can explore this They can look really closely at it. And if you go really in close, it actually goes through the sarcophagus and shows you what's inside. So I know up here, this is the head, the mummified head. And if you go further along, you can start seeing some of the artifacts. That must be a belt they're wearing. So I'm going to come back out. If I thought that would be a really useful picture to help me explain things, I could use the camera tool at the bottom, take a picture of that. I could also screenshot the page and then annotate over the top, showing my knowledge and understanding. Now, if I don't know anything about a mummy in a sarcophagus, maybe I tap onto the book and I can start to look at all the information that the BBC have given me. And you can link out to other areas to find even more. Now, you have X-rays and you have listening. I've turned the sound off for the moment, but it will talk to you as it does it. But also, you can put a light on so you can look at things, get them to highlight a little bit more. And certain elements of this will have what it's an X-ray and allow you to look inside it. But you can do that just by moving around and getting close enough to it to actually be inside. So I think it's a great way for pupils to explore things either on their desktop, or we could do this connect to the whiteboard so it's in big screen so everyone can see, and then nominate pupils to take it in turns to explore and tell people what they found. So that's civilizations. If I go back to the globe, you can then scroll this around and look for other things in there. So this, the Kiss by Rodin, this places the sculpture in the room, and children get an idea of the size that something might be. And we can explore around, look at this in detail, and maybe screenshot that and talk about what it was made from, how it was made, when it was made. So it might be part of a history topic. Okay, that pretty much is what civilizations that will do for you. So we're going to look at a slightly different app now. It still features AR, but it's called TinkerCAD. And it's an app that I would see using in design technology, just to create 3D models. And you could, if you had a 3D printer, you could use it to print things out. But we're going to look at creating things in here. So it's free. You can make an account, and there's all sorts of training materials and things that go with it. But I'm just going to go straight into create a new design. And when it opens up, you get a blank space that you can add things to. And you can see at the side, we've got various shapes. If I go to the menu, you can see you've got all sorts of different shapes and things in there. I'm going to stick with the basic ones just for what we're doing today so you can see how it works. If I select the red cube, tap onto the screen, it places that into my work plane. And if I catch hold of the squares at the front and bottom, I can stretch the length of it, I can stretch that sidewards. And you can see now I've changed the size of that. So if we're doing buildings, that might be a good thing to do. If, for instance, we were doing moving vehicles, if I go to vehicles and machinery, and you can see we've got some tires and things to add in there. But again, I'm just going to stick with the basic shapes for this. So I've made the first part of my shape. Now I'm going to add in this roof, and I'm going to tap to put it up here somewhere. It's put the roof in, but you notice it's gone in a really strange place. So first of all, I'm going to make the roof a little bit bigger. Then if I go on the arrow at the very top, you can see that sort of cone sticking up. That should allow me to lift that up. So it's lifted up. We're still not in exactly the right place. But if I hold on to the body of the shape, I can drag that and move it to place it where I want to. So I'm going to put it around there. Let's look at the side just to check. Just check all these things in 3 dimensions, which is slightly different to most things that people do. I drag that in a little bit. And now, if you notice, I've got the roof roughly in the right place, but the thing that's wrong is it's floating in midair. So I'm going to go to the cone at the very top and drag that down. So I could start to make the design for a building I want to create in here. That's still floating slightly, see it's in the air. So let's bring that down a little bit more until it sits on there. Perfect. So now I could add lots of other objects. There's household goods and all sorts of things you can make. But if I tap on AR at the top, AR viewer, it's going to scan my desk, find a flat surface, I tap onto it, and it puts my house into my classroom. So I could photograph that with me standing by it. I could screen record it, talk about it. It just lets me make 3D objects and place them in the scene that I want them to be in. So I'm going to go back on the arrow at the top left. That brings you back. If I wanted to add more objects into that, I can look through these. I can add them in. You just tap on the thing that you want, tap onto it, tap into place it in the right place. I'm going to make that a bit bigger. Looks like an igloo actually. And you'll see at the top, I can choose the color I'd like it to be. So it's just a nice way of building your design. Now with this, you can carry on, you can make them as intricate as you like, but if I select this one, and select the roof as well, you do have an export option. And there's lots of different options. What I'm going to use is the USDZ option. I'm going to tap on that, it's going to save this out for me, and you'll see why I'm doing this a bit later on. I'm going to go to my files, and hopefully in my TinkerCAD files, I can save that as a file that I can use in another app. But that's the basic use of this, maybe for designing something in a D&T lesson, maybe trying to recreate a scene from something in history, or we're doing columns or different styles of building. And once you've made that, I'd say you tap onto AR, you choose where you'd like it to go, and you tap place your design, and that ends up sitting in your classroom. Okay, so that's a very quick run through that, but I think you get the idea. If it's something you want to use, go for it. There's lots of things in here, as I said to you, that you can use to embellish your designs. So yeah, give it a go. The last app we'll look at this afternoon is Reality Composer. So when you tap onto it, it'll open up, and I'm going to go to the plus sign to create a new project. And when I tap onto that, it'll open up and ask you a few questions. First question is, where would you like to anchor your objects? Now, the most popular one I would say is horizontal plane, but you could put things to appear on the wall, or you could even have a picture that would trigger the objects appearing and make them link to that. But I'm going to go with the horizontal one, so that's probably the most popular. And it opens up, and it looks very similar to TinkerCAD, but there are some stark differences. I'm going to tap onto these objects and delete the ones that come with it, because I want to make my own. So this is my space I'm going to work in. At the top of the screen, you'll see a plus sign. I tap onto that, and I can add objects. Now I'm just going to add a sphere. That pops into my space. It sits on the floor right in the center of my space, but now I can start to change the way that looks. So if I tap onto it, you'll see on the right hand side I could change the scale to make it bigger, and you'll see the position. If I use the red cone, I can move things left and right, but you see the position changes there. So I can move things left, right, forwards, backwards, and the green cone at the top would let me move this up into the air. You'll notice that said it's changed now to 19.71 centimeters. I'm going to tap into there and change that to 100 centimeters, so a meter, and it will tell me that's up in the air there. Next thing I want to do, you notice it says material and material color. I could change the color of the ball. I could change the surface of the ball, so that's like a car metallic paint. So there's a range of different ways of making it look. The next thing I can do further down, and this is where it does change dramatically from TinkerCAD, I can tell it to participate in the physical world. So I tap onto that, physics, participate, and make the motion type dynamic, so it will respond to the properties of the object that we put in. So further down, you'll see the material this is made out of is concrete. Pretty good. So now I'm going to tap onto the object again. I'm going to duplicate, use a red arrow to pull it across. So now you've got two spheres in the air made out of concrete, exactly the same size, same height, but I'm going to change the properties of the second one and make that made out of rubber. So now, if I go to AR, it'll scan the floor, it'll find the floor, and it'll place the two spheres up in the air. I'm going to stand up so I can get a bit further back and you can see how this works. So if I press play, they drop down, and you notice I'll do it again. The one on the left bounces once and stops, one on the right bounces a number of times before it stops. And that would be because the one on the left is made out of concrete and the one on the right is made out of rubber. The other thing we can do, you may have noticed it already down here, we can change the gravity. So at the moment it's set to 9.8, which I think is the gravity on Earth. But if I move that down and make it a lot lower and then press play, they fall a lot slower, the ball bounces slow, but they still have the same effect. So even with less gravity, concrete isn't going to bounce, whereas rubber is going to bounce up and down. So we can start to explore real world situations using AR to emulate and model them for us. So that's a brief introduction as to what it does. The other thing I just want to show you, if I go to the plus sign and I go to imported objects, I can go and find the object that I made earlier and pop that in. That's really small, but if I tap onto it and scale it up a bit, and I'm going to move this over to the left because I don't want it to be in the way of all of these things. And now when I go to play, I've got the object I made in TinkerCAD imported into my Reality Composer file. So that's the sort of things you can do. Ideal for science, I would think, and creating different scenes that you want to explore and also things that you want to explain. So that's Reality Composer. We'll go back to Phil now.
Absolutely wonderful. That was a treat. I don't know about everyone else. I really enjoyed watching what Chris did and having a little chat along in the chat. That was really fun. I hope everyone enjoyed that and got some ideas they can take tomorrow. Like I could imagine myself taking the BBC Civilizations app into the classroom tomorrow for whatever topic I might be doing, or maybe having a play with a Reality Composer if I'm starting to do Gravity, or even just getting my children to have a bit of a Friday afternoon tinker in TinkerCAD to see what they can create, just to get them used to it. So rather than getting the clay out, rather than getting your teaching assistant to raid the resources cupboard and get all that mess out and then stay until 4 or 5 o'clock tidying up, or you can just get out the iPad, get everyone on TinkerCAD to create something, export it, maybe even send that off to a 3D printing company and get their creations printed off in real life. Can you imagine? That would be beautiful. But I just want everyone to have a think, like the slide says. Is there anything you learned today? Did you literally learn that iPad can actually do this? Have you ever actually seen iPad do this before? Is that new to you? Do you think this workshop might have any impact on how you're going to use iPad in the classroom the next time you use it? And if you've got any next steps, are you thinking to yourself, what do I need to do to get this into my classroom? Do I need to ask someone how we buy these apps? Do I need to get an iPad that can actually do it? Can my iPad do this? So these are more things for you to reflect on. By all means, you are welcome to put them in the chat. If you enjoyed today's video as well, please give it a like, and you can also share it with people. But without further ado, anything else? So the next steps. So if you ever want to interact with me again, or Chris, or the company we work for, KRCS, there are some things we can help you with. If you've got iPads or Macs in your school and you're wanting to make a bit more use of them, or you're thinking about buying some for your school, whether it's leasing or buying outright, we can help you make the best use of them as an Apple authorized education specialist. We could come in and do some planning essentials with you, which is a hands-on workshop for your school and your leadership team. And by the end of the afternoon, you have got a year-long plan of how you're going to integrate Apple technology into your school step by step with us helping you. Might be we do a curriculum essentials session where we, as the title says on the tin, we help see how we can manufacture your curriculum around the use of iPad to enrich what you're already doing in schools. Might be you've got some brilliant topics lined up, but you want to centre some of them around the use of digital technology. If you've paid for it out of a budget, if your families and children have been wanting to learn with these devices, why not inspire them and spark them and embed them into your curriculum? If before these two things you're not quite sure whether your school can handle this technology, or you're not sure where to start and you're not sure if your network's up to snuff, what about web filtering? What about keeping the children safe? You might need to have a technical essentials session where we talk you through the technicalities that your school needs to consider to have many iPads and Macs on site. Any of this can be done through myself or any of my colleagues. So plenty of things for you to think and talk about. But the next step, as Chris says, the most important one is to give these apps a go. But thank you very, very much. We have kept to a really nice half-an-hour timescale. I will be leaving the stream up for a little bit, so just for a few minutes with the music on. So if you've got anything to say, feel free to say it. But my name's been Phil Sparrow, and we've had Chris Smith in the chat. You've got the email there, edsales@krcs.co.uk, if you want to get in touch with us as an Apple authorized education specialist. If you want to have a chat with us, we are the people to chat to when it comes to Apple technology in schools. We work with many schools